everybody. This is Trauma on the Rocks. I'm Cody Mullins, and this is the podcast where we get deep, we get real, and we dig into the shit that everyone runs from. Are you ready? Because I've been dealing with it for 10 years, and I'm finally ready to scream it from the rooftops. Look, I get it. Trauma, mental health, addiction, these aren't exactly dinner table topics, and we're pulling back the curtain. We've all had wounds, right? Maybe they're fresh, maybe they're old scars. We've all got stuff that shaped us in ways that we never asked for. In this first episode, I bring to you my story before we dive into anyone else's, because I'm going to ask you to trust me. You need to know who I am and where I come from. And let me tell you, it's been a journey. Generational trauma, and that stretches back beyond my parents, beyond my grandparents, a cycle of pain that for the longest time felt permanent. But here's the thing, I realized it doesn't have to be permanent. We can do the work. We can question old patterns. We can heal. So whether you're driving, cooking dinner, or laying in bed, trying to find some peace, thank you for being here. This is a safe place. A place for honesty, vulnerability, and hopefully a bit of hope. All right, grab your drink. Mine's a diet soda, coffee, water, whiskey, or whatever helps you feel comfortable, because we're about to dive in. Whew. Are you ready? Are you ready for it? Let's rewind a bit to rural West Virginia. Picture this. Rolling hills, narrow roads, a single gas station in a town that has more churches than street lights. That's where I grew up, could you believe it? The kind of place where your neighbors know your business before you do. From the outside of my childhood, you might have looked at me like it was normal. Like so many small town kids. I was that scrappy kid climbing trees, riding my bike, being outside till dark. You would think, this kid has it made. He's free. But the truth, there was this constant electricity in the air, this tension. I always felt like something was around the corner. I always on edge, my whole childhood, into my early 20s. School, not exactly the picnic for me either. I had ADHD and dyslexia. Things I didn't even knew the name at the time. I just knew that reading felt like a puzzle, that I never had it in pieces, and sitting still was pure torture. Teachers called me lazy, kids teased me, called me stupid, and at some point I believed them. You hear something enough times, it becomes a part of you. My parents decided not to medicate me. I'm not saying that was the right or wrong decision, it's what happened, but it meant I had to learn how to adapt, scrap by, and know how to really make it. I came up with crazy solutions to my problems, and I still do to this day. I'm a great problem solver, and I love it. Really, my dyslexia and ADHD and not understanding it as a child, and this classroom full of kids and me feeling like I was the only child like this, it was insane. It was like I was on an island by myself. I was speaking a language that no one understood, or it was crazy. But that was just the tip of the iceberg, because at home, we had our own brand of chaos. In a small town, you learn to pretend everything is just fine. Smile at church, wave at the neighbors, and keep your secrets behind closed doors. My secret, my house was on the brink of collapse, and I could feel the walls shaking. I felt like a storm was coming. My mom, Christy, she wasn't always the way she ended up, or at least I don't think she was. Sorry if I get emotional. I'm not trying to get too deep into it this podcast. Addiction doesn't strike like lightning. It creeps in little by little until suddenly the person you knew is gone. And let me tell you, watching someone you love disappear in slow motion, it's a special kind of heartbreak. She dozed off mid-sentence, eyes half open, but vacant. Pills will do that. Sometimes I'd be talking to her, but the real her was somewhere else. At first, I tried to ignore it. Kids are resilient, right? We think maybe it's just a bad day, but those bad days got longer, turned into bad weeks, bad months. Amanda, my sister, and I had a front row seat to the unraveling. We'd wait at the window to see if she'd come home, never sure what shape she'd be in. Be in when she'd stumble through the door. And on the night she didn't come home, that was almost the worst. Because then you were left with your imagination running wild. And as a kid, you don't know what that is. I remember this one time I asked her if she was okay. Her eyes were red. She was slurring her words. She mumbled something about being fine. Even then I knew it was a lie. As a child, isn't that kind of crazy? But what can a kid do in that moment? Other than nod and hope tomorrow would be different and escape to a magical world in your head. Over time, we got used to the chaos. It became more normal in a way that's the twisted thing about trauma. If it's all you know, you adapt to it. But you don't come out unscathed, and I can tell you that. I started building walls, deciding I didn't need anyone's help. If my own mom could vanish, piece by piece, no one was reliable. That's how my hyper independence started. Amanda, she went the opposite route, constantly seeking the connection, reassurance, someone to tell her that she mattered because the one who was supposed to do that wasn't showing up. Two kids, same house, same mother, different scars. All right, guys. My Uncle Ricky died in February of my senior year of high school. Y'all, Uncle Ricky was more like a dad to me because my parents had me in their teenage years, and my Aunt Shannon and Uncle Ricky was our next door neighbors, basically until they moved when I was in early elementary school to down the street to the little neighborhood, and then in 5th grade they moved to Louisiana. And even when they were in Louisiana, even when they were in Louisiana, he still shaped my life from afar. When I got the news, I was shooken, I was rocked. My dad was a single father. He couldn't take off time work to get me there, and I knew he really wanted me to go, and financially we could not afford me to fly, and it was wild. So the only option, ride with Christy and her new boyfriend, who were, mind you, both using drugs. Yeah. That drive from Point Pleasant to Ponchatoula, Louisiana, about 12 hours. And it felt like 12 fucking days. I tell you guys, Christy nodded off 4 times. 4 times. Each time, I'm like, I can laugh about this now, but each time the car would drift into the white lines, blurred. My grandparents were there too, in the back seat with me. They were like, we were all holding on to each other every time. It was freaking crazy. At one point, we just about slid into an intersection. I remember thinking, is this how it ends? Because when you're a kid in the back seat, You can't do anything but watch. Then we finally arrived at Louisiana, and I thought, okay, at least we made it in one piece. It wasn't over. It was far from over, guys. Because at Uncle Ricky's funeral, guess what Storm Christie did? She stole pills from family members. She was so far gone that in the death and even in grief, it didn't break her through her need to feed that addiction. I can't even describe the mix of rage, heartbreak, and embarrassment I felt. I was grieving someone who actually showed up for me in my life while my own mother was hustling for a fix. I can laugh about this now, and maybe it's a coping mechanism, but dang. I think that was the day that I realized I can't stay in this cycle. If my mom was capable of this in a place saying goodbye to a man who was basically a father figure, then there was no limit how far she'd fall. And this was early on. And I refused to get dragged down with her. When we left the funeral, I was a different person. Because once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. Has that ever happened to you? Because it really shapes you, even at some little moment. Graduation was on the horizon, and I clung to it like a life raft. I'd always wanted a bigger life, somewhere far from the gossip, the suffocating small town vibes. But let's be real, I also just needed to breathe without the ghost of my childhood smothering me. My cousin, she's 7 years older than me, my aunt and uncle's daughter, she was like a sister. She's living in Winchester, Virginia, and my plan was to always move there and go to college. But when Uncle Ricky passed away, she asked me to move down with my Aunt Sharon to keep her company so she wouldn't be alone. And me, I was ready to say yes, because I knew if I stayed in West Virginia, I'd be stuck. Whether it was in the memories or the never-ending cycle of drama, I just couldn't do it anymore. But ironically, the only reason my dad allowed it, at least I was, this was because this is me going back to Louisiana to go to the funeral. I got off the track, sorry. Ironically, the only reason that my dad allowed it, at least as I see it, was because Uncle Ricky had been such a big part of my life. Dad couldn't take me himself to the funeral, so I ended up going with Christy. That nearly killed us. But we survived. I will survive. It felt like the universe was screaming at me. It's time to go, Cody. Now let's be clear. Leaving doesn't mean the trauma just evaporates. Excuse me. Just so you can, I'm sorry, that got me off guard. Now let me be clear. Leaving doesn't mean the trauma just evaporates. You can change your zip code. You can't outrun your past. In the next episode, we'll get into exactly that. How I tried to start over. And how my past followed me into new places, new relationships, new everything. Because the one thing they don't tell you is that trauma packs itself in your suitcase and you end up unpacking it wherever you land. And I unpacked it multiple places. Before we wrap up, I want you to take a moment and think, how many of us still are hauling around the baggage we picked up as kids? Maybe you were a quiet kid, overshadowed by everyone else's problems. Maybe you were a caretaker in your family, always cleaning up the messes that you didn't make. Or maybe you are like me and decided that no one could be trusted, so you learned to do life on your own. It's okay to recognize that. In fact, it's vital, because acknowledging your past is the first step to rewriting your future, baby. Amanda and I took our respective baggage into adulthood. She needed constant reassurance. I needed no one. Both of us were products of the same chaotic environment. But it's strange, isn't it? The same storm can produce two entirely different survivors. But here's what I've learned. Neither approach is healthier. They're both just coping strategies, survival modes, if you will. And at some point, we owe it to ourselves to do more than survive. We deserve to thrive. Now, that's Trauma on the Rocks is all about. Not wallowing, not pointing fingers, not recognizing the patterns, the pain, and doing the work to break them. So, if you're listening right now and something is hitting home, take it as a sign. You're not broken. You're a human who went through some real shit. And guess what? We're allowed to heal from it. We are. That's it for today, you all. Thank you for being here, for listening, for letting me share these parts of my life that honestly I kept hidden for a long, long time. If this resonated with you, do me a favor. Subscribe, share, leave a review. Tell a friend, give a thumbs up, leave a comment. Just if anyone you know needs to hear this message, or you think that my story, the start of my story, may resonate with the start of someone else's story, let them know. And hey, if you have a story you want me to cover, or you just want to say hi, find me on Instagram. Same name, Trauma on the Rocks. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm grateful we're in this together. Remember, you are not what happened to you. You are not your parents' worst moments. You are not defined by the storms you survived. You deserve healing. You deserve growth. You deserve to look back and see how far you've come. Until next time, y'all, take care of yourself and take care of each other, especially in these times. All right, guys. I love everyone. Big hugs to everyone.